Welcome to Strengthen Your Memory. This class is geared towards helping you understand what ways you can do to strengthen your memory, to improve your thinking, to keep your brain sharp, and to have fun in the process. My name is Beth Gregg. I'm the Director of Residential Health Services here at Windermere, and I hope you enjoy this presentation. There will be times during the presentation that I might ask you to put your viewing on pause for a second by hitting the pause button at the bottom of your screen before you go on, so you have a little chance to work on the puzzles and the games that we do on your own before moving on to the next slide. So every month that we meet, we're going to be talking about a different subject, a different topic. Last month we talked about how board games can help improve your cognition and your thinking and your memory. This month the focus is on brain aerobics. So you might be asking why brain aerobics are important, what they mean. The idea that your brain is in charge of all the different operations of your body, and there are different parts of your brain that are responsible for different types of thinking and different actions that you do. And it used to be thought that there was only one area of the brain that was responsible for memory. That area is called the hippocampus, and it's a little area that's kind of located in the center of your brain. And what it does is when a memory comes into the brain, the hippocampus decides whether it's going to hold on to that memory and store it somewhere in the brain, or if that memory is just going to go right out of your brain. So that's the role of the hippocampus. And they used to think that that was the only part of the brain that really had anything to do with memory retention. But they're finding out now more and more that all the areas of the brain come into play when you're dealing with memory, and of course with cognition just as a whole. So the idea of working out every area of your brain is very important, because the more parts of your brain that you can increase your blood flow, build more neural pathways, the better and the stronger your brain is going to be overall. So the idea of brain aerobics comes from looking at a typical exercise class. So if you're going to an exercise class, you're going to have some warm-ups, you're going to have fast-paced exercises, cardiac, strength training, and then you're going to have a cool-off period. And we're going to be following that same type of a program here with our brain aerobics class schedule. So we're going to be starting with warm-ups. We're going to be doing cardiac. We're going to be doing strength training, and we're going to have a cool-off period. You might actually find when we're done that your body is fatigued, and that's because you actually have done a workout with this program. How we're going to formulate this class is we're going to be exercising with a wide range of activities. Each activity helps you develop a different part of your brain. They all work together in a full body and full brain workout. The different kinds of exercises we'll be using: quizzes, word games, grammar games, brainstorming, categories, reminiscing, recalling and reciting poetry, discussing current events, art exercises. All are part of our class today. I'm going to ask you to start with a warm-up exercise. Just as when you warm up before you do a exercise class, I want you to warm up before you do a brain exercise class. In doing so, you're going to increase the blood flow to your brain, which is very important for clear thinking and being able to strategize and to give your brain a thorough workout. So before you get started, take a few seconds to move your hands around, wiggle your fingers, tap your feet, wiggle your toes, scrunch up your face. They've actually shown that if you do face exercises before you start to do a brain exercise, it does increase the blood flow to the brain and helps you think a little better. So spend some time scrunching up your face, moving it around, wiggling your face, sticking out your tongue, doing all those kinds of things. And now you're ready to work out. Humor is a very important part of brain exercise. One of the biggest reasons is that humor can be a stress reliever. Stress releases a hormone in the body that's called cortisol. When you're stressed, your body naturally releases cortisol. But the problem is cortisol is toxic to the hippocampus. And as you remember from before, the hippocampus is the area of the brain that's responsible for memory and memory retention. So the more stress you have, the more cortisol is released, and the more your brain is impacted negatively for memory. As much as you can relieve your stress, relieve your cortisol, your brain function should be improved. So humor is a great way to do that. So take a few moments, look on the internet, find some jokes, write some down. You're always welcome to come down to our office. We always have one posted on our door of the residential health office, or you can ask me. I'm always happy to trade jokes back and forth. All right, now we're going to start getting into our puzzles and our brain teasers. This is a good one to get warmed up on. Calculations. I'm going to ask you to do the following. There are 293 ways to make change for $1. How many ways can you list? I want you to give yourself 2 minutes and see how many you can list. If you need to put this on pause for a moment, go ahead and press pause at the bottom of your screen and then press play when you're ready to resume. The next exercise I'm going to have you do is a combination inspiration and memorization exercise. I want you to take 5 minutes to memorize the poem that's on the next slide. And I am going to ask you to remember it enough that you'll be able to recite it back directly right after the next slide and also later on in the presentation. So here's the poem that I want you to memorize. An Irish friendship wish. May there always be work for your hands to do. May your purse always hold a coin or two. May the sun always shine on your window pane. May a rainbow be certain to follow each rain. May the hand of a friend always be near you. May God fill your heart with gladness to cheer you. So, I want you to go ahead and maybe put this screen on pause for a second because I want to give you 5 minutes to really try to memorize this. And then when you're ready, press play again. And on the next screen, I'm going to ask you to try to remember as much as you can. So here's the next screen that I want you to try to remember as much of the poem from memory that you can that was on the previous slide. Go ahead and put this on pause. Write down as much as you remember. If you're working with somebody else, sometimes you can try to recite the poem together. That's actually a very beneficial thing to do any of these exercises with somebody else. So if you can try to do that together, that would be great. You can go ahead and put this on pause while you work on that and then press play when you're ready to continue. The next thing that I'd like you to do is to spend a little time doing some breathing exercises. You might not be aware, but 20% of the air that we breathe goes directly to our brains. And you need to be able to have appropriate blood flow and oxygenation in your brain to be able to think clearly. But the other benefit of doing breathing exercises is again, looking back on the idea of stress and the impact of your cognition and of your memory. And if you do regular breathing exercises, it's been proven that it helps to decrease the cortisol levels in your body. And as you remember, cortisol is the stress hormone that is toxic to your memory center of the brain. So by doing breathing exercises, you should be able to reduce some of that cortisol and to help improve your thinking. Now, it's very easy to do a breathing exercise. All you're going to do is slowly inhale to a count of 4. Hold your breath for a count of 4, and then blow all the way out as you count to 4. I encourage you to complete 4 cycles of these 4 times a day. Don't forget, when you're inhaling, you want to inhale through your nose, and you want to exhale through your mouth. Remember, speed is not important, and if this isn't an exercise that's comfortable for you, or if it doesn't make you feel well, don't do it. But for those of you that can, this is a very beneficial exercise that will help all areas of your body and specifically your brain. All right, now we're going to get into some fun stuff. We're going to do some more brain cardiac exercises and some brain strength training exercises. So make sure you have a pencil and some blank pieces of paper, and then press play when you're ready to go. I'm going to give you 1 minute, and I want you to list as many red foods as you can. As you do this exercise, keep in mind, at the beginning it's going to be very easy to list them. And then all of a sudden you're going to notice they get harder and harder. I encourage you to use your creativity and think outside the box and try to see how many you can list in 1 minute. Go ahead and press pause when you're ready to start, and then press play when you're ready to go to the next slide. Here's another challenge for you. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to try to write the entire Pledge of Allegiance down. Not only are you going to have to use your long-term memory recall to try to remember the entire Pledge of Allegiance, but you're also going to find that the act of trying to tell your hand what to do, what your brain wants it to do, in a very short period of time, rapidly, is going to be a very effective brain strengthening exercise. So when you're ready, go ahead and press pause, write it down, and then press play when you're ready to continue. Here's one more of these types of exercises. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to write down as many foreign language words as you can. For those of you that have taken foreign language in the past, I'd like to tell you that learning a foreign language is one of the best things that you can do for your brain. They've shown that that's one of the most effective exercises to be able to maintain very strong brain and cognition powers. And if you're at all interested in learning a new foreign language, I encourage you to do so. Because again, it strengthens your brain significantly, especially sign language, because you're combining both the physical movements along with the language. So what you're going to do with this slide, when you're ready, press pause. You're going to have 30 seconds to write as many foreign language words as you can. And then when you're ready to go to the next slide, just hit play again. Here's another word puzzle that you can do. And it's a very easy one to learn. It just sounds a little complicated to explain. But let me see what I can do. You're going to start with one letter. And on this example, we started with the letter S. The next word, you're going to find a two-letter word that begins with the letter S. Doesn't matter what the letter is, as long as it's two letters. And it starts with S. The next word is going to be three letters, starting with S. And then 4 letters, and then 5 letters, and 6 letters, and on and on and on. And what you're trying to do is to see how many words you can get to. And my goal that I'm setting for you is to see if you can get all the way up to words that have at least 10 letters in them. So for example, with this one, S, and then we did so, then set, star, stark, season, seagull, surprise, something, supplement. Then you could go on and on from there. So I want you to try one on your own. This time you can start with the letter T. And so to do this, you'll start with T at the top of the page. And then the next word, you want to find a 2-letter word that starts with a T. And then a 3-letter word, and on and on and on from there. Go ahead and put this on pause and press play when you're ready to continue. All of these puzzles that we're going to be doing are in printed form in what I call our homework. And at the end of the presentation, you're going to have information about how you can get a copy of the homework if you'd want to get a copy to just review these games and puzzles that you can do on your own. The next game that we're going to do is called Something in Common. So all 3 of the words in each grouping is going to have something in common. And, try to think of what they are. For example, needles, hurricanes, potatoes. They might sound like 3 very different things, but the answer that links all of them is they all have an eye. So the eye of the needle, the eye of the hurricane, and potatoes have eyes. So go ahead and put this on pause while you try to work out the rest of the questions. And if you get stuck, you're always welcome to reach out to me, and I'm happy to give you the answers. Just press play when you're ready to continue. Here's another game that's fun to do and very easy, and it's fun to play with a friend, or you can play it by yourself. You're going to begin with a word, doesn't matter what word it is, and then you're going to be building kind of a ladder of words that they're all connected. And the way that they're connected is the last letter of each word becomes the beginning letter of the next word. For example, let's start with the word gadget. So gadget ends with the T, and it's a 6-letter word. So I'm challenged with finding a 6-letter word that begins with a T, because T is the last letter of the word gadget. So now I'm going to start my new word with the letter T, and I picked tumble. Tumble is 6 letters, and now it ends with an E. So my next word is going to need to start with an E. So I picked the word energy. Energy has 6 letters, and it starts with E. Well, energy ends with Y, so now I need to find a 6-letter word that begins with Y. So I picked yellow, and you go on from there. So you can do this on your own if you just want to start by picking a letter of the alphabet, picking a number of letters that you want each word to be, and then just continue playing that on your own. And this game can really go on indefinitely with any number of letters and any letter that you want to start it with. There are also other ways that you can play if you prefer. Instead of just picking out random words that are a certain number of letters, you can pick out categories instead. For example, the one that's shown here, you might want to try cities. You don't need to limit the word length. For example, if I started with Paris, Paris ends with an S, so my next city would need to begin with an S. And I picked San Francisco, which ends with an O, so my next city would need to start with an O, which I picked Omaha. And you go on and on and on from there. So this is a fun game that you can try with a lot of different categories. Maybe you want to do movie stars, maybe you want to do types of foods, maybe you want to do TV shows, and it's a fun game to play with a partner, or you can do it by yourself on pen and paper. We've reached the part of the class now that we're going to do a bit of a cool-off period. Your brain has been working really hard. You've really improved the blood flow to your brain, and now you can take a few minutes to just start cooling things down. So here's the time that I want you to try to remember some of that poem that you memorized earlier. How much of it do you remember? Spend a few minutes, see if you can write down as much as you can or try to think about as much as you can. And it's okay if you just remember bits and pieces of it. But this type of exercise is a very important type of exercise because you're working on both of your long-term and your short-term recall. And it's an easy way that you can incorporate this into your daily life. For example, if you get the newspaper, take an article every morning, memorize a couple sentences in the article, then put it down. 5 minutes later, come back to it, see how much you remember. Put it down. Half an hour later, come back to it, see how much you remember. Put it down. Later on in the day, try to remember how much you remembered from the article in the morning. It's a very easy exercise to do, very simple to do, but very effective. Another way that you can cool down is a discussion and debate. This is a very important kind of a brain exercise because you are thinking about a subject, you're thinking about your opinions related to it, and you're having a conversation with somebody else about it. So the idea of picking a topic that is interesting to you, maybe familiar to you, maybe not familiar to you, and being able to verbalize what your feelings are can be a very powerful brain exercise and a lot of fun too. I recommend maybe trying to stay away from topics that can be heated or upsetting or stressful. Oftentimes politics make people a little bit, upset or stressed. So the purpose of this isn't to get in an argument with somebody. It's just more of a kind of some conversation topics to start strengthening your brain in different ways. So for example, one topic that you could do is to discuss your feelings related to whether funding should be cut for the space program. Why or why not? So if you have a friend, start talking it over. If you feel very passionate about this subject or another subject that you're discussing, another way that you can twist this exercise is to debate both sides of the topic. So say, for example, with the space program, say you're very passionate about the fact that funding should not be cut for the space program, and your friend feels that it should be cut. So have that discussion, have that debate, but then take the time to switch places. And now you need to try to prove why it's important that funding should be cut, and your friend should be trying to convince you that it should not be cut. So it's a very interesting exercise for you to try to tap into different areas and emotions in your brain that go against what you typically think. And for a list of different conversation topics, you can either look online if you do a search for conversation starters or debate topics. A lot of times you'll come up with some very interesting topics. Or I also have some listed on my homework. So again, at the end, you'll have the way to reach out to me if you want a copy of that homework to work on it on your own. So if you're interested in receiving the homework and the notes from this class, you're welcome to contact me at gregbeth@windermerelcs.com or by giving me a call at 630-681-4037. I'm very glad that you tuned into this program. We meet in person for our memory class once a month, and you can watch your Wyndham News for information on the next class that we're having. But you're also welcome to watch these presentations. They're also linked to our YouTube our YouTube channel. So if you enjoyed this presentation and you want to watch other ones, just take a look at that playlist and you'll see other Strengthen Your Memory classes alongside this one. If you ever want me to go over with you how to access those, don't hesitate to reach out to me. And I'm going to leave you with one last reminder. I say this at every class. There are 3 main ways that you can strengthen your memory and improve your cognition. And I want you to try to include all 3 of these ways every day of your life. Number 1, paying attention to physical activity. That includes exercise. That includes strength training. That includes good nutrition, good sleep habits. It includes that deep breathing that we were talking about before. Number 2 is making sure that you're getting cognitive stimulation and exercise. Maybe that's attending lectures, watching the news, reading the newspaper, doing puzzles, doing word puzzles, playing games. And the third is through socialization, being around other people, talking with people, having conversations. So I encourage you to make sure you include all 3 of those in every day. And I look forward to talking with you next month as I bring you another episode of Strengthen Your Memory. Thanks for watching.